Hi, today we're going to continue to read Nancy Clancy late breaking news. Chapter 5, Listening In. The following day, Mr. Dunny sent Nancy to the nurse's office. She didn't want to go. It meant missing art class. She was almost finished making a clay unicorn. However, one morning long her eyes had been burning and her tummy felt funny. As social students, she could barely keep herself from putting her head on her desk. Mr. Dunny was talking about the town paper. He had bought in a copy, just like the Third Grade Gazette. Our paper focuses on local news, events that are more important to our community, like this, he said. Then he began reading aloud an article that had to do with building permits and how the town wasn't giving them out, which made people very angry, and on and on he read. Words, and more words. They swam around in Nancy's head, making her dizzy. Suddenly, she heard Bree saying, "Mr. Dunny, that's the place Nancy had her family saw." "What?" Nancy said. She didn't bother turning toward Bree. It hurt too much to move her eyeballs. "Crystal Lake Estates." Nancy went there on Saturday. Bree told the class. "The houses aren't built yet." "Tell them." Nancy didn't have the energy to speak. Mr. D put down the paper and was now looking intently at Nancy. He came over to her desk. "You're not yourself today, are you?" Mr. D said, sounding conquered. Then he sent Nancy on her way to the nurse's office. Mrs. Bergman was pouring a cup full of mouthwash for a little boy who had lost a tooth during recess. While he was rinsing and spitting, Nancy said what was bothering her. Mrs. Bergman kept nodding. "You rest for a while on the cot. And here, take this," she said, and handed Nancy a blanket. "I think my mom caught it yesterday," she regurgitated. "Well, you let me know if you think you're going to." Nancy nodded. A thermometer was under her tongue. And sure enough, she had a fever. Then, before she knew it, she dozed off. Nancy didn't know how much later it was when she heard Mrs. Bergman saying, "Nancy, your father will be here shortly to take you home." Nancy sat up. Her head spun. "I need my backpack. It's my classroom. It's in my classroom," she said groggily. Mrs. Bergman checked her watch. "It's still recess. Nobody's here to bring it down for you. Do you feel well enough to go get it?" Nancy nodded. "I feel as if weights were in the shoes," as she toddled upstairs to her classroom. The door was open a crack. Mr. D was inside. Nancy could hear him talking. No one was answering, so she had to be on the phone. Nancy didn't know whether to knock or stay in the hall. "Yeah, it's something I have been thinking about for, I don't know, at least a year," Mr. Dunny said. This sounded like an important conversation. It wouldn't be polite, would it, to break in? Nancy remained the door unsure what to do. "Yeah, of course it will be hard after being here so long." Nancy didn't mean to eavesdrop, but it was impossible to hear. There was a long moment of silence. Nancy was scared. Mr. Dunny knew she was outside, and any second now was going to fling open the door and find her. But no, he must have been listening to the person on the other end of the line. Finally, he said, "I'm glad that you agree it's the right decision. Of course, I'm sure going to miss them a lot, but I keep telling myself time for change." More silence. "No, I can't wait until June." "Yeah, it's too bad, but I have to leave by the end of the month." Again, more silence. Okay, listen, gotta go. The kids will be back from recess any minute later, dude. Evidently, the conversation was over. What did that mean? All the stuff about leaving and missing them? And time for a change? Nancy feels too sick for her brain to make sense of anything. She waited a nanosecond, then rapped hard on the classroom door. It's me, Mr. D. Nancy. Come on in. She barely had time to grab her backpack before her tummy did a cartwheel. Nancy dashed out of the classroom and made it to the girls' room just in time to regurgitate. At home, Nancy slept all afternoon. When she woke up, she felt a little better. Her eyeballs weren't on fire anymore. Her head had stopped throbbing. She sat up above her in the attic. She could hear her mom and dad and Georgia clomping around. Nancy went down the hall, where the ladder to the attic was pulled down. Guys, what's going up on there? She called. We're finding old stuff, Georgia shouted. Look, Daddy made this. Georgia peered down at Nancy through the open trapdoor. And she threw down a gigantic ball made of rubber bands. Careful of that! Nancy heard her father say. That's a precious memento from my college days. A moment later, Georgia scrambled backward down the ladder, followed by Nancy's mom, who waited at the bottom while Nancy's dad handed down cartoon after cartoon. They were marked baby clothes, baby toys, and baby books. Nancy's mother explained, a couple we know are accepted the baby and can use all this. Oh, can I look at the clothes before you give them away? Nancy asked. Back in her room, while she and Mom sit giggling and munch on saltine crackers, they took out all the tiny, careful folded clothes, laid them on her bed. In pity of all the photos she had seen of herself as a baby, they still found it impossible to believe she had once been small enough to wear what looked like doll clothes. And no surprise, they were awful plain looking. Baby dresses and shorts and Orville t-shirts, all in solid colors, not a polka dot or flower print to be seen. Then, at the bottom of one carton, she undraped the little strawberry pink tutu. Oh la la, adorable! Her mom smiled. You choose that yourself. We were in the store, you saw it, and you wanted it. I mean, you really wanted it. You couldn't have been more than two. This came as no surprise to Nancy. It was obvious that she had been born with exquisite taste. Mom, you can't give the tutu away. Someday it will be a precious memento of my childhood. Her mom laughed. Well, if your father keeps that ridiculous ball of rubber bands, then you get to keep your first tutu. When they were almost finished repacking all the baby clothes, the bell outside Nancy's window rang. Bree was sending over Nancy's homework assignment for the next day. It was to read an editorial in the local newspaper. An editorial, Mr. D had explained, the writer expressed the personal opinion about an important news event. Chérie, I hope you're feeling better, Bree had written in plain English. A little French, not pig Latin. Homework didn't count as a secret message. Bree! Suddenly Nancy flashed back to Mr. Dunny's mysterious phone call. How could she have forgotten? Nancy needed to discuss every word with Bree to the sweet. And first that meant pronto. Nancy turned to her mother. Bree has to come over right now. It's an emergency. I don't want you spreading germs, Mom said. You can call Bree. No. Not good enough. This was a conversation that needed to take place face to face. What if Bree stays out in the hallway? I give you my solemn word that I won't let her step in my room. Foot in my room. Well, that sounded like a yes to Nancy. Merci, Mom. Nancy sent a message back, and moments later, Bree was sitting cross-legged outside the door to Nancy's bedroom. As best she could, Nancy recounted the mysterious phone call. It was about Mr. D leaving someplace, she said. It made him sad, but he said it was time for a change. And the change is going to come soon, before next month. He said he wanted to wait until June, but couldn't. The whole time she was listening to Nancy keep nodding slowly and tapping her lip. Nancy could tell Bree was pondering. She was thinking really hard. Nancy waited patiently. Bree tapped her lips some more, but finally she suggested and said, "Sorry, I don't have a clue." Weirdly, right as Bree said this, something clicked in Nancy's brain. It was as if a bunch of scattered jigsaw puzzle pieces moved themselves around and suddenly fit together. Nancy jumped up, nearly knocking over the empty glass of ginger ale on her nightstand. "Sacre bleu! What if Mr. D is leaving Drassel?" Bree looked confused. "What makes you say that?" "Think about it." Nancy started ticking off the reasons on her fingers. "Number 1, he said he wants a big change in his life. Quiet teaching, that would be big. Number 2, he said he was sorry about leaving in a month. That would be before school ends. Of course, he would feel bad doing that. And number 3, he talked about missing them so much. All the great memories he had, I think that means us, our class. Nancy flopped back on her bed. Her head started pounding again. She covered her eyes. Finally, I uncovered the major news. It's so full. There's nobody like Mr. D. Nobody. "I don't know, Nancy." Bill shaking her head slowly. "The phone call could mean lots of things." Bree stood. "You could only hear one side. You may be jumping to conclusions." Nancy sat up. "I heard what I heard. Facts are facts." "I know, but you have to make sure of what the facts mean," Bree went on. "It's called verifying information, remember?" "Yes, Bree, I know that," Nancy said. Verifying facts was something every reporter did, Mr. D had explained to the class. It was to make sure that her story was accurate. Nancy stared at Bree. She was growing. Not annoyed exactly, but she felt let down. She had accepted Bree to act just as upset as she was. There's one small problem, Bree. The only way I can verify stuff is to ask Mr. Dunny if he's leaving. How can I do that? I only found out because I was eavesdropping. True. Maybe there's another way, said Bree. She began tapping her lip again. I wish we were in the clubhouse. I think better there. Me too, Nancy said. And since refreshments, even subtle things also helped with pondering, she and Bree sat on opposite sides of the doorway, passing the almost empty box of crackers back and forth. Sure enough, before too long, they managed to come up with a plan. Nancy was going to ask if she could interview Mr. D for the next issue of the Third Grade Gazette. If he said yes, she would ask lots of leading questions. Questions that might make Mr. D open up his own about his big change. And remember, Bree said, keep it secret what you heard. Of course, Nancy said, I have no intention of revealing a word. Bye.